teacher humiliated her student? Ugh, I know it exists, but I know that sometimes things can be a misunderstanding, so, oh God, my heart's already broken. Let's see what the teacher did. Happy apple picking day! Someone took my chair, and can I have it now, please? Will you go to your bed? No, how about we sit together? Or you can sit in my lap. Oh gosh, leave the wire alone. A few reminders for all our friends. If you want a chance for your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And just a reminder, we all come from different branches of the apple tree. And what that means is that a lot of our answers and opinions are gonna base heavily on the things that we've experienced in life. And if you and someone else who's commenting have experienced two completely different things, like you might hear the stories differently, you might interpret them differently. You might even hear the narrator's voice a little bit differently. It's about how we all have different paths in life. So just keep that in mind while we're discussing in the comments. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Well, let's go apple picking! Dixie, are you gonna make a decision? Like, are you gonna sit or are you gonna go over there? What are you gonna do? Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for banning kids from my house? I'm getting married soon in the next few months, and I've recently planned a small bridesmaids activity for us to meet, do some easy tasks, and get everything done before the wedding. It's also kind of like a hangout with my closest friends, cause it's my birthday. I also just had major surgery not that long ago, and I'm not able to do a lot of the tasks. And while I'm able to do the task at hand, I'm not really supposed to be moving around or walking, and because of that, I don't really want to be around kids. I've told my relatives to leave my small niece at home this time, cause 1, I don't have the energy or feel well enough to share the space with playful kids. 2, I know the wedding prep might look attractive to small kids. I don't want them getting into it and messing with anything. We only have so many materials. And 3, not all my guests really like hanging out with kids. My family was totally fine in accepting the request for a chill adults day. 2 of my bridesmaids are really codependent on each other and are constantly attached to the hip. One of them has kids and the other doesn't, and describes herself as not liking kids. They were planning on coming together, but then the one with kids texted me to tell me, not ask, but to tell me that she's bringing her 1-year-old child because she couldn't find childcare for all her kids. I explained that I really wanted to keep it adults only due to the nature of the event and my condition, and I even told her that my nieces weren't allowed to come. For right now, kids are banned from my house. Now both of those bridesmaids aren't coming because I've asked to keep it child-free, and I'm left wondering if I'm the jerk. The one with the kids said that the one without the kids should go ahead, but she said that if one's not going, neither of them are going. I feel bad because it's just a baby, and apparently the only way for her to make it work is to bring her, but I feel like I should stay firm in not letting a kid add to my stress after my condition. And it's for my birthday. I understand that moms with kids should feel they're included in just as much as moms without kids, but I don't know, I can't tell. Am I being too rigid? Was I the bad apple? I'm just gonna leave this here right now because this is a very comfy cat and I don't want to disturb her. Here's the thing. I think it's totally up to a homeowner's decision or whoever's house they're at to decide whether they want kids to come to their house or not. Just we see so many child-free weddings, and that's totally your right. 1000%. I think that people do have to understand that when they start limiting what kids can go to, hold on a second, I can already hear the typing. I'm talking about in general. I'm not talking about this particular woman. I'm talking about in general. I think it's everyone's right to have child-free weddings and, adult-only hangout sessions. I think that's completely your right to do that. I do think that you have to understand that it could rub some people the wrong way. And it is going to mean that some people aren't going to attend or are going to, they're not going to feel welcome. Because just like you have a right to make the decision for your event or your home, other people have a right to feel however that makes them feel. People's feelings are valid. That being said, the fact that this woman just had a medical procedure and is hey, because of this, it's not even just about the mobility, it's also the stress. And 1-year-olds are adorable and we love them. They have not learned to talk yet, so when they're in pain or hungry or tired, the only way they have to communicate is to cry. We understand this. That's why, they cry on airplanes or in restaurants, and that's fine. That's how they communicate. That's how they tell their mommies that something is wrong or they need something, right? That's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. That can add to stress though, and if someone is recovering from a medical procedure, that's also valid. It's not that she's saying, I don't like kids. It's not that she's saying, I don't like your kid. She's saying, I'm recovering from like a medical thing. I need to not have kids around. They like worrying about if they're getting into something or if they're crying. Like, I can't deal with that stress. I think that's so valid. That's so, even to me, that's different than like, we just want a child-free wedding or I just want to have an adult hangout time. That's like a medical reason of, I need this to be as simple and clean and easy as possible. And maybe some moms can let me know in the comments. I feel like that's pretty reasonable. I understand completely that she still wouldn't be able to go because of the childcare thing. But at the same time, I feel like I can also understand the friend that's like, hey, you have a kid. I don't want you to feel like you're the only one missing out all the time because you have a child. I kind of get that too. Now, I don't like that happened for this particular incident. Like if it was just a child-free wedding or a child-free girls' night, I'd be like, I actually kind of like that personally. Like, I know my friends who suffered from postpartum depression kinds of things and always felt left out. I would respect that. Personally. Not everyone would, and that's fine, but I would. The fact that it's because of a medical condition, I don't like that the friend with no kids was like, okay, well, I'm not going either. That to me, I don't love that. I don't love that at all. I'm going good apple for sure. I get what she's saying about she told me, didn't ask, told me that she's bringing the kid. Well, she either has to bring the kid or she doesn't come. I don't think that was as malicious as she's reading into it. I think she's just I think she's stressed with her procedure, and I think with the wedding coming up, I don't feel like that was as malicious as she read that to be personally. I could be wrong, and that happens. I'm still gonna go good apple because it's totally fine for her to right now ban kids from her house. I think that's completely reasonable. I think it's completely reasonable for the mom to be like, I can't leave my 1-year-old by himself. I don't love that in this particular situation the other friend was like, okay, I'm out too. Again, if this was another situation like a girls' night kind of thing, I would totally understand I don't want you to feel like you're the only one not included all the time because you have a child. We'll do something together. I actually kind of love that personally. But the fact that this was like for the wedding and a birthday and because of a medical condition, like it wasn't like I don't want to not include you because I don't want you around because you have kids, but I'm recovering. I don't love that the friend did that in this situation. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for putting a child in a bad situation? My husband confessed to me on Saturday that he had an affair. And not only that, but he ended up having a secret child from it this entire time. Our kids are 14 male and 10 female. And this secret child is 9. 9-year-old girl that he's had this entire time and kept secret. Well, apparently, something happened to her mother within the last couple weeks. I was a little too busy screaming at him to really listen to the details, so I really couldn't tell you. And he had to leave immediately to go get this daughter. My daughter came to me crying, saying that my husband, her dad, told her that she now had to share her room and her stuff with this new secret child, this new sister that he sprung on her. Well, I called my parents, and they agreed that my child, my daughter, could stay in their guest room for now, so she didn't have to share her room with this stranger. We packed all of her stuff, and on Monday, my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, my nephews, we all helped move all of my daughter's stuff to my parents' place so that this new kid can't touch any of it. They also helped us put locks on my bedroom and my son's bedroom so that no one that didn't need to be in there could get in there. We moved all of my husband's stuff from my bedroom to the 4th bedroom that he used as a home office, all before he got back. Wow. Yesterday evening, my husband got home with his affair kid. He had the audacity to get mad about all of my daughter's stuff being gone and nothing being left for this other kid. I guess she's from a much warmer area and doesn't have clothes for the cold here. We live in the north, very chilly. This morning he caught me in the kitchen to complain to me about it again. Said that I was being cruel by not making my daughter share her things. So, was I the bad apple? Oh, this is a situation. I'm a little conflicted with a few things, and hear me out. I have a few thoughts. First of all, like on one hand, you have no responsibility to this kid at all. First of all, so well, for starters, why is he still in the house? Is like a question You know what? I understand those things take time. I understand that. I understand. Anyways, moving on. You have literally zero responsibility to this other kid. Zero. None. Nada. You don't have to provide for her. You don't have to get her warm clothes. That's her parents' job. That's your husband's job, okay? To randomly spring on a 10-year-old girl, by the way, you've had a sister this whole time, haha, she's your age, and now you have to share your entire life with her. What, like, I don't know what happened to this other girl's mom, and I understand that the 9-year-old, she has nothing to do with any of this. Like, she does, but none of this is her fault, right? She's just a 9-year-old girl. She didn't ask to be born. She didn't ask for any of this to happen. I feel so bad for her. I feel so bad for the wife and the marital children. Like, these are all the victims. Not only the main household, the mom, like the wife, the 2 kids from the marriage, but also this affair kid, like, is a victim. She has nothing to do with any of this. She didn't ask for any of this. She didn't she didn't do any of this. She was just born, and she didn't have any control over that. So I feel bad for that kid, who, I don't know what's going on with her mom. Her dad clearly hasn't been in her life because he's married with another family. Now something's happening to the one parent she does have a relationship with. I don't know what that is. She's dropping her entire life, moving across the country, and has nothing, I guess. Nothing. I feel so bad for this kid. That doesn't mean I think it's fair at all for the dad to be like, okay, 10-year-old, your entire life is now being shared by this other daughter. That's also so unfair. That's crazy. I can't even imagine the mental headspace that 10-year-old would be in. Like, she probably feels like she's being replaced by this secret sister she had no idea even existed. That is crazy to me. Crazy. Anyways, you enjoying it? Are you happy? Are you comfortable? I know this is just a personal thing. I know in general, I know a lot of people would say, no, good apple, you have no responsibility towards this other kid. The teacher in me is, and I'm sure that there are a lot of moms out there who, like, their heart's bleeding a little bit for this 9-year-old, who again is just existing at a bare minimum, like, warm clothes. At a bare minimum. Not that I think that the wife is at fault. I'm not saying at all that I think she's at fault and that she owes it to this kid to leave clothes for her. I'm just saying I feel like I would leave clothes. Or, like, is it her dad's responsibility to go get some? Abso-freaking-lutely. Absolutely. But we already have seen he's not a great guy. Do I trust him to be able to make sure that she has warm clothes? Is he even thinking about it? Who knows? I don't know. Of course the mom is. Of course she is, because she's a good parent. I mean, I'm going good apple for the mom, for the wife, for sure. I feel like in that situation, I would at a bare minimum leave clothes, though, for sure. And it's up to the, like, just for safety reasons, like, because I could not leave a child without warm clothes in the winter months in the north. It's cold here. Like, I'm in the south, and Alexa, what's the temperature outside? It's 35 degrees outside right now. I don't even want to know what it is like in Boston. So I feel like I would leave clothes, but I don't blame anyone who wouldn't. That is her father's responsibility. He's going to get her. He can make sure she has the things that she needs. And in doing so, he has to also make sure that his marital kids don't feel like they're being replaced or come second or anything like that. Like, he's got a lot to fix and figure out and manage, and you know what? That's his business. That's his responsibility. He made his bed and he can lie in it. I do feel so bad for wife, marital kids, and I feel so bad for the affair kid too. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for telling my son that his relationship with his sister is all his fault? I, 42 male, have a son named Jack, 22 male, and a daughter, Cassie, 7 female, from 2 different marriages. I had Jack with my first wife, Penelope, who passed away when Jack was 9. That hit us both very hard. I thought Penelope and I would be together forever. It took me a long time to be ready to date again, which I started doing when Jack was 14, and he was not happy about it. I met my first girlfriend, my current wife, Sarah, through work. We dated for a few months before birth control failed and Sarah became pregnant. Because of that, our relationship progressed very fast. She moved in with Jack and I by the time she was 4 months pregnant. Jack was understandably very upset. But Sarah and I wanted our child to grow up in a 2-parent household. Unfortunately, due to the lack of space, we also had to move out of the apartment I shared with my late wife, and Jack was put in therapy to help him adjust. Now, however, Jack and I did luck out a bit with Sarah. She makes it a point to have prominent memorabilia of Penelope because her awful stepmother all but erased Sarah's mother, and she did not want to be that stepmother. After Cassie was born, Jack wanted nothing to do with her, which was understandable, but upsetting. Now, Cassie's maternal cousin, Will, 18 male, adored her from day one and happily stepped into the brother role. They would hang out all the time, they played with dolls. He even has a matching Hello Kitty necklace with her and uses it as his good luck charm in sports. Well, this was the first year that Jack and Will left for college, and Jack messed around during high school and had crappy grades and no scholarships. I'm able to pay for him to go to college, but I refuse to pay $40K a year for him to mess around. So he went to community college for 2 years, and this year transferred to a good school. Will was an A student as well as an excellent athlete, so he got a full ride to a faraway school. So because of the timeline, they ended up going away the same year. Thankfully, both boys were coming home for Thanksgiving, and Jack came home first. Cassie greeted him without much fanfare. She was still happy he was home, but it was very different from how she greeted Will. She waited at my sister-in-law's house for him, made a huge glittery sign, and started bawling her eyes out when she saw him. My sister-in-law posted a video of them reuniting on Facebook, and Jack saw the video and was very upset at the difference in Cassie's welcome home enthusiasm. After listening to him complain for like the 5th time, I snapped at him and told him that these are the consequences of his actions. He hasn't done anything to bond with his sister over the past 7 years. Well, he got pissed and stormed off to his room. Since then, my former in-laws have been ringing my phone off the hook, yelling at me, demanding that I reprimand my daughter for her lack of enthusiasm at his return. Cassie doesn't understand any of this. She can tell her brother's upset at her and it's affecting her. She just doesn't understand why. Will's pissed at Jack for making Cassie upset. Like, I just don't know what to do. Here's my biggest issue with what you said at Will. Your consequences have actions. This is all your fault. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Pot. What? Like, no. This isn't, I would not say that this is all Jack's fault. Like, yes, you will get out of relationships what you take out, what you put into them. Actually, scratch that. That's not even true. That's not even true, to be honest. You will not always get out of relationships what you put into them. But that's besides the point. That's a different issue. No, he did not attempt to bond with his sister. And whose fault is that? Your actions have consequences. You as a father were not careful when you started dating and your son was having a difficult time with it. And within a few months of you starting to date that he was already struggling with dating, you were like, I know you weren't okay with me dating, my guy, but not only am I now stuck with this lady forever, you're now gonna have a sibling. So like, he lost his mom, clearly was struggling with it for a long time. You didn't put him into therapy after losing his mom until you already started dating, and then you got someone pregnant, and he found out he was gonna get a sibling, and he probably felt like he was getting replaced, and then he had to move out of the one home he knew and shared with his mom. And that's when you started therapy. Of course he wasn't dealing with anything well. You created that situation. You were the responsible adult. You were the parent. And you were careless with all of this. You are why they don't have a good relationship. It wasn't the teenager's fault for not doing well with the situation that you created. Now what it looks like is that Jack grew up a little bit when he went to school and has since decided that he does want a relationship with Cassie. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't care that like she was excited about Will and not him. Now great for Will for being protective family member. We love that. Will seems so sweet. Even the way that you described them though, like it's so clear that you love Will and have issues with Jack. He probably feels like he lost the parent that cared about him. Because you've mishandled this so badly, and the way you describe him, like it sounds like you would rather Will be your kid than Jack. And he probably feels that. I can hear that from the one situation that you're describing to me. He sees that all the time, every day. That's his life. He probably is struggling so much, and you don't even realize. It's clear that he's grown up and is like reconsidering how he approaches Cassie. He's probably, you know, when he's young, he can't really separate the idea, like the affair kid. He can't really separate the idea of like, this child was just born, she had nothing to do with this, she, you know. But now that he's older, he probably is doing that. It's okay if people never get to that place of like, you know what, it's not this kid's fault, I want a relationship with them. It's fine if that never happens. It's everyone's like different boundary level and comfort level. But he's clearly gotten to that point and is realizing like, she doesn't even care that I'm home. This is where you have the opportunity to be a father. He's 22, he's still a kid. And I say that because I haven't even like really said this on social media yet. But there's a 22-year-old that has like an unfortunate home life that I've kind of like hides out in my guest room. And they're just like, he's just a kid. Little baby ducklings. This is your opportunity to be a father. Instead of snapping at him and telling him this is all his fault, when it's really not, it's really yours. And how you've handled his early life and how you've handled the situations around all of this. This is where you say, hey, you didn't put in the work to foster a relationship with your sister for 7 years. And I know that's not all your fault. Like, you had a right to be upset and to be distant and to feel very conflicted about this for a very long time. But if you're now deciding like, hey, I want a relationship, she's only 7. And that means it's not too late. It's not too late to start putting in that work, and it's not too late to start talking with her and hanging out with her and playing dolls with her. You can still do that. You can save this if that's what you want. But this is a great lesson to show that, you know, hopefully what you put into relationships you can get out of. And it's a lot easier when it comes to kids. But I think it would be irresponsible to like teach people that you will always have that happen, because it doesn't always work out that way, as I know. It's fine. But like, this is a teachable moment that you can acknowledge what he's dealing with and it has dealt with, that hasn't been dealt with responsibly before. Be the parent. And like, this is your chance to tie a little bow on the family and like really make this a family unit instead of further alienating and ostracizing your first child. And you know what, honestly, I'm so glad that he felt like he could go to his mom's parents, his grandparents, and talk to them and explain his frustration, and like, good on them for like calling you out. No, I don't think that they should have called out the child. She's 7, she doesn't know what's going on. But like, the fact that, you know, Will came home and had a sign waiting for him and people made a big deal about it and posted on Facebook. What did you do when Jack got home? What did you have set up and situated waiting for him? Like, these are the things to think about and consider. Like, you're his parent, so act like it. So I'm going bad apple. Like, I feel like not only, like, if you just handled everything poorly and you're like, I don't know what to do, I would go crab apple. But like, the fact that you handled everything so poorly and are now like blaming your kid who, yeah, I get it, he's 22. He's dealt with so much trauma. So much, and he's now like coming out of it and is doing better in school. Like, first of all, for you to give him crap for doing bad at school when like his mom died and then he felt like he was being replaced and his whole entire life like changed in a matter of months, yeah, it makes sense that he was struggling in school. For you to like, well, I wasn't paying for him to mess around, but Will gets great grades. Great. Will didn't have his mom die. Will didn't have his entire life change just like that. Like, kids struggle with that. I hate how you described all of that. So like, I don't even know what I was saying before, but like, with all of this, and then you go and say like, oh, well, this is your fault, Jack. Bad apple. Bad apple. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for humiliating a student? I, 29 female, am a middle school English teacher, and this is my first year in the role. Yesterday, one of my students, Emily, had a complete mental breakdown in my class. The day started off normally, like Emily came into the classroom, but I noticed she wasn't her usual self. Her eyes were puffy like she'd been crying, and she kept her head down. Before class began, I quietly asked if she was okay, but she just nodded and said, I'm fine. Not wanting to push her, I let it go and started teaching. About halfway through the lesson, I assigned the class some practice problems while I walked around to check on their work. I got to Emily's desk, noticed she hadn't written anything, and her pencil was just sitting untouched and her hands were trembling. I leaned down quietly and asked, do you need some help? That's where it started. Emily shook her head and she muttered, "I can't do this anymore." Before I could respond, she just started sobbing, uncontrollable sobs, and the entire class froze and eyes were on her. I quickly got her into the hallway to give her some space and privacy, and I assured her that it was fine to feel overwhelmed and she didn't need to explain anything if she didn't want to. After a brief chat, it became clear that she wasn't calming down. I decided to call the counselor and felt this was beyond what I could handle in the moment. When the counselor arrived, Emily seemed reluctant to go with her, but eventually did. I returned to the classroom, but the energy was tense. Some students were whispering, and I reminded them to be respectful and focus on their work. The rest of the period felt heavy as everyone, including me, was pretty shaken. Later that day, I spoke to the counselor and she told me that Emily was having a mental breakdown and said it might be best for her to take the rest of the week off. She said she would follow up with Emily's parents and ensure that she had the support that she needed. Well, today I received an email from Emily's mom and it wasn't nice. It was harsh. She accused me of humiliating her daughter in front of her peers and claimed that I had no right to involve the counselor without her permission. She wrote things like, "Teachers these days are so quick to label every little thing as a mental health issue. Maybe if you let her stay in class, she wouldn't have felt so embarrassed. She doesn't need a break from school. This generation is so weak." It wasn't a big deal. I responded politely, explaining that I acted out of concern for Emily's well-being and my goal was to ensure she got the support she needed. I also mentioned that I kept the situation as private as possible under the circumstances. My principal's been supportive and assured me that I made the right call, but colleagues suggested I might have escalated it unnecessarily and I could have let Emily stay in class until she calmed down. Now I'm second-guessing everything. Did I overreact? Should I have kept Emily in the classroom and handled it differently? I feel awful that Emily's mom is upset, but I genuinely thought I was doing what was best for her in that moment. Should I have handled the situation differently? I don't even feel like this needs a whole big explanation. No. First of all, just by Emily's mom's email, I think I've pinpointed the problem. I think I know why she's overwhelmed, and I think I know why she's having a mental breakdown. Makes sense to me. I wouldn't have done anything differently, to be completely honest. The fact, first of all, for the mom to be like, it's not even a big deal. If your daughter, your teenage daughter, is sobbing in class, and you pass that off as nothing's wrong, this generation's weak. I have words that I don't say on my channels because there are kids here, and I say those words in my real life. I don't say them on my channel, so use your imagination. And the fact that other colleagues were like, she could have just stayed there until she calmed down. Why would you ever just leave a crying girl in the middle of a class where kids can be mean? What if someone started recording her? Kids can be mean. If she's having a mental breakdown and some jerk in class thought it was funny to record it, no, absolutely not. And it's none of the other kids' business what she's going through. Absolutely take her somewhere private. What? And you're a teacher of what? The largest class size I ever had was 42 teenagers, 42 high schoolers. Usually it's somewhere in the upper 20s range, lower 30s range. That's a lot of kids that you just left in the room. You can't sit there out in the hallway with her the entire time. Yes, you call a counselor. You call the person who has a degree to handle mental health crisis with kids. That's who you call. You did the right thing. The fact that this mom is saying these things, this is such a red flag. I know this is gonna get some comments. I say you report it. You report the email to the counselor, because what a lot of people don't know is that teachers are mandated reporters. If there's something wrong, if teachers get any kind of inclination that anything may be wrong, whether you think it's a justified thing or not, teachers are legally required to report it to the counselor. And the counselor will see the situation and deem if they need to make a call to CPS. And then CPS will get the report from the counselor and they will make the call and deem if it's necessary to do a wellness check. That's how that works. It's not it's necessary, it's not. No, if there's any concern, teachers are legally required to report to the counselor. Legally. And if they don't, and they find out that there's abuse going on at the home, and the teacher saw that there were possibly some issues and they didn't report, the teacher gets held liable. It literally drives me crazy whenever I did this story about how this person that I knew one time back in the day was joking about how a kid in her class got in trouble, and it's so funny because grandma says that he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it when he gets home. And I was like, hey, you like, and that was all I said in the video, but in reality, in real life, she made comments about how grandma said that she was gonna beat him and like use the word beat. But so many comments were like, you report to, like, you're ruining families, report to CPS for that, blah, 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 blah. No, you report to you go the chain of command. Yes, you do. I don't care if you think that most likely isn't anything. We all hope it's most likely nothing. But you do your job that is legally required. You do it. In this situation, I would report to the counselor 1000%. Because if this girl is sobbing and the teacher's like, it's fine, there's nothing wrong, or the parent is like, it's fine, there's nothing wrong, like blah, 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 something's going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the parents. I don't know if it's because of something. She could have just had like a breakup at school. And the parents might be like, it's a dumb high school relationship, blah, 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 blah. And they might just not be empathetic. We don't know. But it's always best to be safe than sorry. I don't really care if it stresses out the parents that CPS wants to do a wellness check on the kid. I mean, they don't care that their daughter's so stressed out she's sobbing in class. Why am I gonna care that they're embarrassed or stressed out about, like, no. You always put child safety first. It's so interesting to me that the same people that are all about, no one cares about your feelings, like, wanna put parent pride and feelings over child safety. I don't get it. Someone explain it to me. It's fine. Good apple. All right, so I got 3 good apples and 1 bad apple. Oh, that's at least what I got. I would love to hear down in the comments if you got anything similar or different or anything along those lines. And as a reminder, if you want a chance for your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/AmITheBadApple. And for your well wishes, it is a National Dewey Decimal System Day. It's like a library classification system. So I think a great way to celebrate is to, you know what, there's a few options. I would say visit your local library, appreciate the Dewey Decimal System. At a bare minimum, maybe read a book, listen to an audiobook, something with a book. I feel like that's a good way to celebrate this National Day. It's funny because like I'm recording this on the 7th, but it's gonna be posted on Tuesday. And today is like Pearl Harbor Day, but it's also my mom's birthday. So I'm all dressed up, we're going to lunch. But today, Dewey Decimal System Day. Go read a book. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.